Meateor Man on YouTube, who is a fellow raw meat eater from Texas. So I figured I would get together with him, kind of pick his brain a little bit, and see what path led him to raw meat and kind of how he's doing today with it. So I guess I'll start it out with how long have you had your channel? How long have you had your YouTube channel?
I've had my channel for about a year and 4 months, I guess. Pretty much whenever I started eating raw meat as my mainstay, that's when I started my channel because I was so excited about it.
All right, so you've been raw carnivore for about a year and 4 months?
About that.
Right on, man. What kind of cuts are you eating normally?
Well, I try and save some money, so usually I eat the less desirable cuts. Usually I just pick up a pack of ground beef from the cheap Whole Foods, not Whole Foods. I'm in a Food Town restaurant. I go to the cheapest grocery store in Houston I can find, and I buy the cheapest meat they have to offer. So it's not anything fancy. It's not grass fed. It's got antibiotics and all that other junk.
Hey,
That's
man,
what I
yeah.
can afford, so that's what I do.
Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I'm just now getting into more grass fed, but I usually eat like a mixture myself, just because of availability and obviously like money is like a major issue, if not the biggest issue for everybody. So I can totally relate to that, man. So so you're in Houston, huh? So Texas, you guys must have a pretty decent amount of grass-fed ranchers and just overall beef down there, right?
I feel like we do. We probably have better access than other parts of the country.
Yeah, yeah, because I didn't realize you lived in Texas until kind of like right before or right after I emailed you. I kind of put the two and two together somehow, and yeah, I find that interesting. I feel like we have probably a similar economy as far as when it comes to beef and stuff up here in Nebraska, as opposed to down in Texas. Kind of, you guys are a little bit warmer down there, but it's kind of a similar strip of land. So I find talking to you guys kind of interesting. You're only my second interview, and both of you guys are from Texas. Andrew Graff's from Texas too. So, and actually, the interview I first had was done with Carno Man. He's also from Texas. So I find this all kind of interesting that all of us in the Midwest are kind of getting together. But yeah, that's cool. I guess some other questions I have. How much do you eat per day? What's your how many pounds do you eat, and what is your current weight?
Lately I've been sipping down about a dozen raw eggs, and after that, if I eat a pound of ground beef, then that's on one of my best days. Other days, don't go so well. A lot of times I eat a lot of cooked food. Sometimes I'm eating plants when I eat with the wife. If I go out to eat at a restaurant or if I'm over at my mom's house, I eat whatever's there, but
Sure.
I'm mainly focused on the meat.
Right on, man. I might have cut off the first part of that. So yeah, you're about pound of beef and a dozen eggs. That gets you through the day.
Yep, I'm happy to
Interesting.
handle it.
And
I
how much?
always I always try and push it. I always want to try and eat as much food as I can.
Yeah. What percentage beef are you eating?
I get the fattiest beef I can, so usually I shoot for the 80-20. But this
Yeah.
last round, I picked up some 70-30. I was very happy with that.
Oh yeah.
I never look for the 90-10 or anything like that. I don't want the lean stuff.
Yeah. Do you notice a difference energy-wise when you get more fatty stuff, or is it
Not
just
really.
pretty
I've just
subtle?
always gone for the more fat, so I don't really have a lot of experience eating tons of lean meat. And this has been all my life. I've always appreciated the fat and the gristle. Even back before my diet days, back when I was on, eating regular food like everybody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. That's
I was
interesting,
always,
man. That's
I was,
interesting you say that because I've noticed people in my life before that had kind of an intuition to fat. They would always eat the fat on the steaks. They would always chop the ribeyes up and eat all the fat. And I would always throw that fat in the trash because I was taught that fat was bad for you. So my instincts for fat were not like that at all, man. I'm just kind of now dialing them in. But so interesting. All right. So you do eat plants every once in a while. What kind of plants do you experiment with, or do you add to your diet when you go out to eat or whatever?
Whatever I find pleasurable. Mostly the plants I avoid would be grains like rice, pasta, especially any kind of bread. Not really a fan of bread. And I appreciate my wife because all her life, for no apparent reason, she is not a fan of bread. She won't eat any bread at all. She'll eat
Interesting.
some tortillas, she'll eat some pasta. But,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Interesting.
I would eat bread before we met, but it was never, I was never impressed by it. And then once we got together, I was like, you know what? This chick is onto something. And we both just enjoy not eating any kind of bread. But I will enjoy vegetables, but if I'm gonna eat plants, usually I gravitate towards some fruit before anything else.
Yeah. Same here. Yeah. Same here, man. I ate some kiwis earlier this year and a little bit of watermelon, so I can relate to that. And I am also open to integrating like fruits and stuff like that eventually, because you got to keep an open mind, right? You can't think you have everything figured out.
You don't want to coddle your digestive system too much; it'll start to get weak on you, and then eventually,
Yeah,
when you do eat that kind of stuff, it'll really tear you up. But if you keep it, if you give it a little negative, a little negative food in there, then it's gonna retain the memory on how to deal with it, and you'll be just fine.
yeah, I agree with you, man. Yeah, I had like a couple slices of organic mango at my grandma's house like 3 days ago, and I couldn't finish more than two slices because it was too sugary. But no problems at all. It was like I feel like in small doses, stuff like that can be okay for most people, and as long as you're not just binging on it. And I think genetics plays a pretty big factor in this. As I'm getting into my meat quest, I'm starting to learn about my own history and genetics and things like that. Do you know anything about your ancestors or where you guys came from?
I'm Scotch Irish, and I got a little bit of American Indian in me, but that's about all I really know. My old man did a bunch of genealogy research.
Okay, cool, man. That's cool. You got American Indian. Interesting.
Yeah, that's why I got this pronounced uh, forehead ridge line right here.
Yeah, I can see, man. So yeah, I'm always looking for traces of like people that had possibly raw meat eaters in their more recent ancestry. You know what I mean? But yeah, so you could have. I mean, descending from Native Americans, those guys ate a lot of raw meat. And as far as I know, that was just replaced when we came in. I can't say we, but when Americans came in and basically replaced their culture, that raw meat culture was replaced. So I believe that it was active in most cultures. It's just nowadays it's sort of demonized or whatever. But I remember watching a couple of your videos when I first started my channel. You were like one of the first people that commented, so that was very cool of you to do that. You kind of embraced me into the raw meat community. I appreciate that.
Right
And
on.
so yeah, that felt good, man. And I remember checking your videos out, and I thought I remember seeing one where you mentioned that you had started eating raw meat really early on, right? Like, did your mom introduce you to it or something?
When I was a kid, I forget what my mom called them, but she would mix raw eggs with milk and make these. I think she called it foam or something, but it was just a raw egg and milk, maybe some chocolate in there. But that's
Interesting.
probably one of my first experiences with eating raw food. But as I progressed into my early 20s, into adulthood, I kind of gravitated towards that. When I
Hmm.
used to work at the country club as a sous chef, I would always drink the blood out of the packages. I'd always scrape all the fat off of the cutting board after I cleaned a few 100 pounds of brisket, piece of toast. And this is totally unprovoked. No positive reinforcement on why to do this. I just knew it was great because I like steak tartare, and I'm like, if we're eating raw beef over here, why not eat it across the board? So I just gravitated towards that. But I'm a very adventurous eater. I want to eat all the foods that nobody knows to eat.
That's interesting, man. So where did your mom get the idea to eat raw food? Do you have any idea? Is that something she was raised on, maybe? Just raw
Yeah,
eggs?
that was something she was raised on. That's something my grandfather used to do.
That's cool, man. That's always good to hear parents doing that for their kids, you know? Um, so, what about dairy? Do you mess with like raw milk, raw cheese, anything like that?
We just got back from the farm. We got a great little dairy farm just south of Houston, halfway in between here and Galveston, and we picked up 8 gallons of raw milk. Usually it's
Nice.
Yeah, usually it goes for $10 a gallon, but they got a little bit of a surplus, so they marked it down to $8 a gallon.
That's good.
But we get the quantity discount, so we're down to $7 a gallon,
That's
and
pretty decent. That's
it's
good, man.
nothing makes me feel better than having an entire shelf in my fridge loaded up with nothing but raw milk.
Yeah, I used to
I
love having that around.
I had bought raw milk in the past from a different farm, and it was incredible stuff. But after we drank it, kind of experienced some gut aches. About an hour later, for about an hour or so, I would get some gut cramps, and it just didn't feel right. But we're like, this milk is so good anyway, we don't care. But we never went back to that farm because it just wasn't worth it.
Right, yeah. Do you have any idea if it's like A1 or A2 milk? Do you know about that?
Right now, I just learned about that because they had a note on the wall at the dairy farm, and I was reading about it.
Yeah.
But I kind of got to look into it a little bit more.
Yeah,
But
sure, man. Yeah, it's something I just learned too, and I believe I had an A1 supplier and an A2 supplier, so it was interesting. I could go see what the difference was, but I believe that it's just the cows are genetically different somehow. I don't want to like speak out of school because I don't really know what I'm talking about, but I've heard that I believe it's A2 is more digestible and possibly more like healthy for you. But in my experiences, I believe I noticed that the A2 was more yellow, and like the A1 milk is more white. And I think people have more digestive problems with A1 milk. So I'm curious. I wonder if you had A1 milk and that's where you had the digestive problems. But who knows, man? Something that I'm just kind of learning about. But so, what about cheese? Do you mess with cheese?
really, I just buy conventional cheese from the grocery store. I don't have any access to raw cheeses. It's kind of sad. My dairy farm, they only produce milk.
You got to. I know, like Whole Foods has. You have a Whole Foods, right?
Yeah,
They actually have like a massive raw cheese selection, which I'm surprised because I'm not a Whole Foods guy. I'm not like I pretty much don't shop there at all. It's just I get like mineral water. That's it. But they have a giant raw cheese selection. It's amazing.
I'll have to double check because I've never found any raw cheese in Houston. The laws may be different around here, but
You may be right about that. You may be right about that. But I was like super surprised to see it. You got to kind of pick through it and look at the back of the package and it says raw right there. I was really mind blown. But so that's cool. At least they're starting to provide it in stores, I guess, around here. But so what about like exercise and stuff? Do you work out or anything?
only when I'm getting paid for it.
I don't
never,
blame you for
never
that.
really exercised. You know, I want to get my bicycle fixed so I can start riding a lot more. That's something I can really get into. But usually when I ride my bike, it's because I gotta go somewhere. I don't do it really recreationally.
Yeah,
And
I'm with
but
you
I
on
gotta
that.
go a lot of places, so I end up getting pretty fit. It's end up looking pretty good. But I'm not into all that weightlifting. I notice all these other YouTubers, they work out a lot because they're on YouTube. They want to look great,
Yeah,
and so they beef up.
yeah, yeah.
But I'm not here to impress anybody. Don't even care about that. You can think whatever you want about me. If I work out, I better have a dang good reason to do it. I
Yeah.
may get into it someday, just don't really have an
Right.
interest because
No.
I like to see some results, not in my own physical, but in the world around me. And if I'm just lifting a weight and putting it down, that doesn't really accomplish anything in my life. So, but I used to work out. I had a workout buddy, but the kind of workout we did was a little unconventional because we didn't go to the gym. We'd go out in the woods. We would chop down trees, dig holes, do some running, and we'd spar each other all the time. Boxing and fighting, that's fun stuff. Digging holes,
Yeah.
That's great fun. You got a big old hole that you can dump stuff in. Man, I have chopped down a huge tree with some handmade or with some implements that I actually created that I've had laying around, not just a hardware store axe.
Man, that's crazy. That's good old fashioned fun, man. Just getting out there,
Yeah.
getting your hands dirty, and yeah, just getting like a functional workout in, not where you're just sitting there just focusing on the bicep for 30 minutes, I agree
Yeah.
with you, man. Like the more that I got into weightlifting pretty heavy, the more I got into that, man, the more it seemed like I was just spinning my wheels. And the more I got into raw meat and started actually transforming my body just through raw meat, I've had very similar revelations, man, where I've realized that I'm watching everybody else run marathons and lift weights for 3 hours a day and just, but, I think when it comes down to it, if you try to get back to like what you're doing, just like a natural lifestyle, get your workouts, going to the store, riding your bike to go get some things or whatever, and digging holes and just doing work, functional work. I think that's how we were meant to get our exercise,
It's the farm boy workout.
basically, man. And I don't know if you came from farmers, but I came from families of farmers. I think a lot of us came from farmers in the Midwest. That's why they settled here. And yeah, that's the type of work that I like too, man. I agree with you. Um, do you have like a vegan community down there in Texas, or are they pretty sparse? Like here in Nebraska, there's really not any.
I guess so. You
You
don't
ever
really run into vegans that much.
Do you know any? Have you ever met one?
I've known two vegans. One of
Okay.
them was my wife's friend, and it was funny when we were over at her house. I mentioned my diet, and it was kind of joking, but she just instantly said, "Get out,"
Oh, really?
and then she laughed and said, "Nah, I'm just joking," and we had a good conversation about it. But
She's pretty diehard, huh?
yeah, my wife is a vet tech, and this woman is a vet tech also. But oh yeah, she's also a way overweight vegan, and totally unhealthy.
Sure.
But she's not a vet tech anymore. I found out she went to go work for Planned Parenthood, so I'm kind of like,
Oh,
ooh,
Lord.
that's
Wow.
horrible.
Yeah.
I told my wife, I hope you don't plan on staying friends with this woman because
Yeah. What a
totally.
dream job. Yeah, that's crazy, man. Um, so not
My,
too many down there, and the ones you know are
I at the last restaurant I worked at, one of the servers was a vegan, and of course, like the first day he started, everybody knows he's vegan, and I don't say anything.
Is that what they do? Because I've actually never met one. I've never encountered one in my entire life. Is that what they do? Is they go around and tell everybody they're vegan?
I guess so. That's what this guy was. This guy, he was pretty proud of it. So I just kind of slipped a few facts in on him. I'm like, hey, that's cool, man. Let me make you a salad. I made him an incredible salad. Wasn't
Sure.
encouraging,
Right.
but when we got into the conversation, I'm like, plants lack a lot of nutrients only found in meats. And after a few conversations that I had with him, he started eating meat again.
Did he really? Good for
Yeah,
you.
he was a
Saved
young
him.
guy. He couldn't have been vegan that long. And I guess he started thinking, what is he doing this for? And what does he really want to accomplish? And he didn't full on go straight to meat, but he started eating fish, a little tuna, the lean stuff, the appealing meats,
Yeah, totally. Do you feel like you talked some sense into him, or do you feel like he was just ready to go back?
Probably talked some sense into him because he looked fit, healthy, happy. I don't think he was getting anywhere close to full blown veganism.
Yeah, yeah, man, that's scary stuff. Um, so, how does your family regard your diet? Do they treat you normal?
I'll tell you the truth. I haven't told my mom and dad about my YouTube channel yet.
Oh, you haven't?
Mostly because my dad, he's an engineer. He would not care. He wouldn't know what to think. And my mom, she's told me in the past she doesn't want to hear about all the crazy stuff I do. She's like, David, I don't want to know about that. Just keep it to yourself. I'm like, all right. But my brother, I've encouraged him a lot. he's not hardcore like me, but he does. When I went ketogenic, about 6 months before I went straight raw carnivore, my mom told me about the ketogenic diet because she's tried every diet on the planet to try and lose weight and regain her health, and no diet's ever helped her. But then when she found the keto diet, it did incredible things for her. Improved her heart health, stopped her tremors, all kinds of stuff. And she told me about it. I'm like, Mom, that's amazing. And when I tried it, I'm enjoying these benefits like crazy. So I tell my brother about it. He starts doing it. He's a pipe fitter. He's in construction. And he's enjoying it now too. And as I get into raw carnivore, I started talking to my brother about how important meat is and how I'm eating it raw all the time. So, he'll send me text messages about how he just bought like 10 ribeye steaks and he's got a fridge stacked full. And, that's awesome. I don't know if he's eating them raw, but I'm sure he's eating them rare.
That's cool, man. At least, you're kind of spreading the word a little bit. I try to talk to my family around Christmas time, and they all think I'm nuts, but that's how that goes, man. I mean, I got a bunch of sugar addicts and bread fiends, and grain addicts in my family, but I think they're slowly starting to see the light a little bit. Just kind of curious. That's funny. What kind of engineer is your dad?
He's a mechanical engineer.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah, that's great. I'm actually thinking about going to school for that myself here this year. That's hilarious. My dad was an engineer too. He was a civil engineer, so I can relate to being raised by engineer. But so, what's your opinion on Shaun Baker, Oginus Planets, on those two guys?
Oginus Planets, incredible man. Rest in peace. We lost so much when he passed on, but got to be one of the nicest guys you could have ever met. I never met him, but watching all his videos and seeing all his responses to everybody in the world, maybe he was even too nice, but he was a great guy, incredibly intelligent, completely misunderstood by 99% of the world.
I agree.
But the people that opened themselves up to them, he really touched their lives and changed them for the better. And he's the founder. He's the guy that started this entire thing. He's the guy that brought raw meat back into our society.
He did. Yeah. Yeah, that was well said, man. I couldn't have said that better myself. Yeah, definitely highly misunderstood guy. He definitely left us way too fast, and he got a lot of work accomplished, but I think he left a lot of work undone too, So I think a lot of people are still trying to put together kind of some of the work that he was putting together. But yeah, he's an amazing guy, man. He's just a brilliant mind, and I'm a big fan of him myself. I like those free thinking type individuals. What about Shaun Baker? Do you watch his channel on YouTube at all, or?
I catch his videos every once in a while, and I love Shaun Baker too. And my opinion on Shaun Baker, because he only eats steaks. He doesn't eat all the organ meats. He doesn't eat all the raw meat. But I remember that he's a doctor. He's trying to influence people to improve their lives.
Yes.
And doctors have a fine line where they can give you the most optimal health, or they can give you something that you're going to be able to do. So,
sure.
If he's out there promoting raw meat and organs all the time, almost nobody's going to be able to listen to him.
Do I get it? Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
So he finds the best mix that's going to help the most people and do the most good. He helps people get off the drugs and eat healthier food, and he encourages them by being a fit, healthy specimen of a man that's always there to encourage and eat his meat. And every time I watch his videos, I wish I could eat cooked ribeye steaks every day.
Yeah.
I'd have it made.
Yeah. I don't mind a rare steak every once in a while myself, man. Yeah, Shaun Baker's a good dude. he's him and Augenus and Gottis from Sverige are the ones that got me into raw meat. So who got you into first wanting to try it out? Did you watch a video or something? Or?
So when I was a kid, it's a long path, but when I was a kid, we first get internet, and what are the first things a kid's gonna look up on the internet? Boobs and my other thing. My other thing is diet. One of my first internet searches are healthiest diet for man. So of course I got duped.
That's amazing.
I got duped into thinking plants were great.
Yeah.
Me too. I never stopped eating plants, but I spent the majority of my life. I never stopped eating meat. Right. But I spent the majority of my life pounding the produce.
Same here, man.
Tons of fruit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I look back on it, I never felt any great benefits. It's just food. But I would watch these raw vegans and all this stuff, thought it was great, but I would always think to myself, if raw plants are good, what about raw meat? But nobody's doing it. Nobody's talking about it. So
nobody.
Never clicked. But it always was a question in the back of my mind.
Uh-huh.
And the first time I ever saw Autogenous Wonderplanets was on Ripley's Believe It or Not. I'm watching this guy eating this horrendously rotten meat, talking about high meat and all this raw stuff, and you see that
good one.
Weird. It's so crazy, and all you can think about is the parasites and bacteria and the mold, and I thought that is so cool, but that's not for me. I would never do that,
Yeah, like this guy just built up a tolerance or something. Yeah, like the guys that get punched in the nuts over and over again. That's not real. They just built up a tolerance.
That's exactly how I thought.
That's funny, man.
And then eventually I run across Derek Nance, the guy that has the enzyme deficiency. His body creates no enzymes, and he's been on a raw meat diet for 5 years. And
he's got an enzyme deficiency?
Apparently what he says is his body doesn't produce any digestive enzymes.
I did not know that.
All the food that he would eat would cause him horrendous suffering. He'd be puking and vomiting blood. He couldn't eat any kind of cooked food. He couldn't eat any kind of plants. And he tried every kind of medicine, every kind of doctor, every kind of diet. And eventually, he just had enough. He didn't want to live anymore. He wanted to die. So just like Autogenous Wonderplanets, he turned to raw meat to kill himself. He went out in the backyard and slaughtered his goat, and he ate it raw. He was hoping to die. He was so miserable. But just like Autogenous, the next day, he felt great. He just stumbled on the primal diet without even knowing.
It's amazing, man. Where did you find that information? Because I love Derek's channel, and I love everything about that guy's channel, because it just sucks that he had to stop making videos because whatever. But where did you find that information? Is there an interview that you can find online where he divulges that personal information? Or
I can't remember how I found Derek Nance. I was probably just doing a YouTube search for raw meat diet.
I'll check around for that video, because I'm interested. I've never heard his beginning story like that. I thought he was just some guy in Kentucky that just slaughtered sheep and drank blood and did it for the health, just to be healthier. I didn't know he was actually fixing something. Interesting guy, man. So, do you eat salt or anything like that, or?
I do eat salt. I don't put it on my food, but I take a tip from the snake diet guy, and I enjoy some snake juice. I put my Himalayan salt. I use some potassium salt, some potassium chloride. Sometimes I even put some Epsom salts for magnesium in there.
Yep.
I use the magnesium because I also take some 20 mule team borax, because I got this arthritis situation that I'm trying to work on, and a lot of people tell me that boron is supposed to help with arthritis and bone health a lot.
Okay.
You know, I'm not very good at keeping on the regiment, but I haven't really felt any benefits from that. But it's too early to tell, I guess.
I can relate to the arthritis, man. I've had issues like that when I was on, the standard diet, and it seemed to go away on raw meat. But every once in a while, I still get some weird stuff, because obviously you're not perfect on raw meat, and I'll get situations where like my joints and hips and stuff, I feel like they're like popping out and things like that. But what do you think is causing your arthritis right now? What do you think is doing that?
I'm trying to figure it out. I got no clue. When I originally went on the raw meat diet, my arthritis completely cleared up. And
Yeah.
just in time too, because I had to drive. I got a little side job where I had to drive all over the country. We were delivering dogs for different shelters, and it was incredible because if I had had arthritis, I would not have been able to drive. Just holding the wheel would have killed my hands. But it came back because after we bought the raw milk, we never went back to the farm, but it just gave me the taste for milk. So I started drinking pasteurized milk from the grocery store. And I was really happy with it because I didn't have to drink water. But after about a month or a couple of weeks of drinking this pasteurized milk, the arthritis came right back.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah.
And it's been with me since then. So I've been trying different things. I'm trying to avoid the cooked food and the plants and eat more raw meat all the time, trying to get back to where I was. That hasn't been seeming to help yet, but I started trying to do intermittent fasting. I thought I was feeling a little bit of relief from that, but right now I'm trying to do the snake diet. So I'll do like 24 and 48 hour fast 2 or 3 times a week right now. I'm not seeing any benefit from that. I'm still feeling the arthritis. Even right now, my hands are a little tingly. But maybe I'm going to force myself to go ketogenic again because the keto might have been the key. Because the whole time I was arthritis free, I was strict keto, eating lots of fat and 0 carbs.
Yeah.
So
that seems to be the trick for everybody, man. It's just once you cut carbs out, it seems to heal everything up. Yeah, that definitely seems to. I know that's how it works for me because I'm basically all just meat and eggs right now. And even when I go on a fast, if I go on a water fast, I'll have a bunch of stuff go away, a bunch of problems go away. So it's like the less carbs that I get into my body, the better. But then again, I'll add some carbs in, like at the end of the night. Sometimes I'll eat a little bit of honey or something like that. That makes me feel better too. So, yeah, carbs are an interesting one, man. I think that, like you were saying before, you were like researching health, and you started getting into you got fed the whole plant-based propaganda thing, and then you started eating all the plants, but you never stopped eating meat, right? So I think the way that we should have been doing it is just flip it around. We should have been eating as much meat as we were eating plants, and eating as much plants as we were eating meat. I feel like that's growing up. I did everything opposite. It was like our whole meal every time we ate was a big pile of vegetables, starches, and you'd have just a little slice of meat in there. You know what I mean?
We've been brainwashed.
Yeah, and ripped off. It's like just given cheap food, and the school system. That's such a tragedy, man, because like that's ultimately responsible for all this. Is we were raised on just bad food in school. You know what I mean?
There's no way it's an honest mistake. It's a blatant lie. You can't be. The government can't come in and tell everybody all this stuff. The dietary recommendations, not knowing the truth. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and
they obviously lied to us.
They did, and certain people, like I know me, we got hit really hard by that information because I'm the type of person that when you tell me something, I take it very literally, and like I never forget it, and I take it as the law. So when I was told that we were supposed to eat 6 to 11 servings of bread every day, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get.
1 second.
Yeah,
hold on. What's up, babe?
I'm just trying to get the dog. Sorry.
Yeah, get him. That's okay. Do whatever you gotta do.
Sorry. Hi. Okay, cool. Bye.
She just got home from work.
Cool. Right on. So, why do you think humans started cooking food in the first place? Can you imagine a scenario where that first happened?
Gottis did a great video on that on Asparage channel, and I kind of agree with him that we always ate raw meat. We never cooked. We invented fire, and sometimes, man, we're starving to death. We can't find any meat, but we got these stupid plants. They're almost. Hold on. What? Just do what you got to do. Quit disturbing me.
Sorry.
Anyway, I was trying to say. Hold on. You're messing everything up over here. Unplug it. Do what you got to
It is
do.
unplugged.
We got technical difficulties. Hold on.
No worries.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
Let's do this question again. We can edit out all the BS.
Yeah, sure, man. So why do you think we started cooking food in the first place? I mean, can you imagine a scenario where we would have had to cook food?
Gottis did a great video on this on his Asparage channel, and I kind of agree with him. We may never know the real reason, but man has always eaten raw meat. That's been our food from the beginning of time. But in the lean times when we were starving to death, after we invented fire, we may have been forced to eat plants in one way or another. And plants are incredibly difficult to eat. They must be processed. So we started cooking them. Maybe boiled them in some water or something. You don't even have to make a pot. A lot of indigenous cultures would just use some animal hide over a fire, and as long as there's water in that animal hide, it's not going to burn away. It's just going to create a boiling pot. So
Well, I never heard of that.
It's not hard to create a cooking vessel.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. Have you ever gone camping and thrown a styrofoam cup of liquid in a fire? The whole cup will burn up down to where the liquid is, and the cup won't be able to burn because it won't get hot enough until the liquid's evaporated out.
That's right.
Same thing with a hide pot. But to be able to survive challenging situations, man may have had to cook plants to actually make primitive soups or stews. And then once we started doing that, obviously we're going to carry that over into cooking the meat. We were able to make these roots edible by cooking them. Let's throw some meat in there and make them taste better.
Yeah, or throw in this, like barely edible part of the animal, like with some meat left on the bone. Throw that in the stew. Throw this skull in there that's got a little bit of meat in there, and just kind of let it all like brew together. I could see that scenario definitely happening. That's how I kind of envisioned it too. It was like some sort of stew was going down, and it started with plants breaking down the fiber tissues. That's a very interesting and plausible scenario. Where do you think all this BS comes out where they say that cooking our food made our brains double in size? Where do you think they come up with that? Is it just like a correlation that they're putting together, you think? And something else caused our brain size to double?
I'm not really sure.
It's probably just eat meat in general, I'm guessing.
That's probably just part of the evolutionary lie. I don't believe in evolution.
I don't either.
I don't think we came from some primitive form of life. I don't think we crawled out of an ooze at any point.
Yeah, I don't either, man. I'm with you on that 100%. What about high meat, man? Organs, like liver, high meat, oysters.
I love making high meat, but when my wife finds it, she loves throwing it out. When she throws it out, she loves starting a new batch.
It's pretty gross. I can tell why. Yeah.
Yeah, she's great. I love her. I fermented tuna. I fermented some fishy grade ahi tuna. I fermented beef. Never had any chance to ferment any organ meats or anything.
Oh, really?
I,
Yeah,
I don't have
liver's.
the high meat experience, but I have done a few things, and even though the flavor is outrageously, ridiculously awful and crazy, actually it's kind of like a fine cheese. You could say the flavor of a fine cheese is horrendously awful, but
Yeah.
if you stop and you taste it and you experience it, you are gonna enjoy different aspects of that flavor.
Oh, totally. It's like, yeah, good cheese. It smells like gym socks, and like the same thing with beer. The first time you take a couple sips of beer, it's disgusting, man. Same thing though. Fermented food. I think, I don't drink or anything, but anymore. But I think beer is delicious, man. I mean, that stuff is so good.
Oh, it is.
One of the hardest things for me to quit. Uh, what's your opinion on vaccines, and have you had any kind of reactions that you know of?
Never had any negative medical reactions. When I was a kid, I was vaccinated, but I was born in the early 80s, so
Yeah,
the vaccine regimen was a lot lighter than it is now.
yeah, we were lucky.
I'm totally against vaccines. Vaccines are the reason Agenus Wonderplanets died
Mm,
because he was railing against the vaccine industry, so they poisoned him to death. They actually assassinated. They didn't poison him. He fell off a balcony. The balcony collapsed while he was out there eating his stinky meat. They knew he couldn't eat indoors. They knew he had to eat on his balcony, so they sabotaged the thing and murdered him. Now we
yeah,
don't have definite proof that it was an assassination, but
he's
we
he's
know, we
yeah
know.
he was far too brilliant of a man to die in a collapsing deck tragedy. That's a collapsing deck is something that you can foresee. I used to build decks, and I worked with a guy that has actually seen a deck collapse, and like that's something that you can foresee. You know, you don't just wake up in the morning and stretch your arms and go out and just fall out on your deck and it collapses. That's something that you're going to see for like a couple weeks. You're going to be like, that's looking crooked. This is squeaking. This is rocking. So yeah, man, I've thought about that too, and I think that he was very, very, very plausibly sabotaged. That's crazy, and he was also apparently held hostage and vaccinated against his own will. You know about that?
Yeah, I have heard about that.
Man, yeah, that's apparently a true story as well. So there was a lot of people coming after him.
That could have killed him, other than he was an incredible genius and knew how to counteract everything that they subjected him to with health and nutrition.
Yeah, he was amazing. He did his own lawyer work. He did his own experiments. He had millionaires backing him. I mean, he was a total one man army.
The
Just
man was unstoppable. That they had no other option than to just take him out.
they hated him. They thought he was bad. When really everybody else was, but they were looking at him like he was the bad guy, and that's how it always works, man. Um, so yeah, I just actually had a conversation with my farmer today, and I introduced him to Agenus. So and gave him my channel today, and hopefully I get to interview him hopefully in the next month or two. So but I'm curious to see how he's going to react to Agenus because this is an older guy and he's been running a grass-fed beef farm for like 20 something years or whatever, maybe 40 years, I can't remember. But curious to see how he's going to react to him. I sent him his information, but yeah, between Sverige and Agenus and Shaun Baker, those are the three guys that kind of got me into raw meat personally. Uh, what are some of like the what are some health changes that you noticed after you went raw? Did you notice anything, or did you just kind of notice a gradual getting better?
One of the things I appreciate the most is hunger is not an issue. You know, back
Hmm.
in the day, the carb crashes were the worst. I
Hmm.
could not get through the day if I missed lunch. I knew I was just going to be a wreck.
Yeah, me
No
too.
good for anything. My stomach would dominate my life,
Oh
and
yeah. Did
I,
so? What is hunger to like for you today?
hunger's optional. Especially now that I'm experimenting with the snake diet. Are you familiar with Cole Robinson?
Oh yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, he's dude. I love the guy. Love his channel. I love the way. I love his. I love everything, man. He talks about. He's hardcore, and he's the one that motivated me to do my 10-day fast.
Right on.
Yeah, yeah. So I love Cole, man. He's a good dude. I promote his channel and all that stuff.
So right now I'm kind of defining hunger for myself, and when my stomach says I'm hungry, I know that's not true. When my mind says I'm hungry, that's when I know I need to eat. When thoughts of food will not leave my mind and I obsessively am thinking about food and cannot get it out of my mind, that's when I know that I need to eat. When my stomach's growling, I just ignore that. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
And it passes. You know, your stomach may growl for a minute, and if you ignore it, it's going to pass.
Yeah. Yeah.
It seems like ever since I got on the ketogenic diet, the carb crashes were history. And even now, even when I eat carbohydrates, even if I, you know, like even over the holidays, I totally just cheated for a good 2, maybe 3 months. It was just not a cheat day. It was like a
Sounds
cheat
fun.
month or two. And still, hunger, you know, did not dominate my life. I still didn't have carb crashes because it kind of felt like since I originally went keto, it kind of stuck with me.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So it helped. So you went on like a 3-month cheat, but you were also eating raw at the same time.
I was still eating all the healthy food that I always enjoy.
Okay.
I didn't limit myself in any way because the holidays are here.
Right.
Not only do I work in restaurants in the kitchen,
Yeah.
but I'm going to be at families' houses enjoying all the traditional dishes, and I'm not gonna be some dick and be like, nah, I don't eat that stuff. I only eat raw, rotten meat.
You're nicer than I am, man.
I'll probably cheat every holidays for the rest of my life. I don't care.
You're nicer than me, man. I had to turn down my grandma's Easter meal this year. I was like, sorry, can't do it. But I had some mangoes. But it's like, I'll just pass. I'll eat some raw for now. But interesting, man. So you feel like it kind of helped you when you're eating and kind of cheating over those 3 months or whatever. You felt like your keto diet helped kind of buffer the carb cravings, even though you were still eating carbs?
Definitely. Like, I still wasn't experiencing carb crashes.
Right.
I would develop more hunger.
Yeah.
I would want to eat more because my body is getting this carbohydrate energy, and then when it runs low, it's like, hey, give us something. But I wouldn't get the weak feeling. I wouldn't feel the negative effects that would drag me down and force me to run to another meal.
Gotcha. What about cravings? Did it increase your cravings for sugar or anything? Eating carbs with raw meat and stuff?
That does happen. When I do eat carbs, then I'm going to start to crave carbs more. But when I avoid them, then they kind of fade into the background.
Yeah, okay.
I'm more apt to avoid them because I feel negative impacts when I do enjoy my carbs. Then, you know, I got a bad tooth back here. It's going to start hurting if I eat too much sugar. You know, if I eat too many carbs, then I'm not going to enjoy the hunger pains I'm going to feel when my body's trying to tell me it's time for more carbohydrates. And I'm going to feel when I eat too many carbs, especially the bad ones, like if I'm eating a slice of chocolate cake, then I'm going to... If I'm eating a slice of chocolate cake, then I'm... Hold on. Get out of here. Get out of here. Wish I had something to throw at her. Okay, I got lost.
Let's see. You know, you just reminded me of something. So I was going to ask you about your dental history. You have a tooth issue going on?
I've always had great teeth, but one of them has rotted out. I got fillings when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I'm shaking the camera. Get out of here, folks. Get out of here. Hold on.
I need attention!
Get out of here.
I need be like, I don't love you.
She sounds like fun.
She's driving me crazy right now. I'm trying to do this. We ain't got to edit any of this out either.
I'll probably just leave it all if that's the right idea. I mean, if you want me to cut
Yeah.
something, you let me know.
This is
So yeah, I was going to ask about dental history, man, because a big part of my recovery was this root canal that I had done, which was basically like a rotting tooth that I just never got fixed, you know? So I like to talk to people about their tooth problems just because I feel like that's a big trigger in autoimmune symptoms, and it can be a big trigger for health problems, you know? Because I don't know if you're aware that your teeth are on meridians, and all your meridians are connected to your organs. So you can just Google like teeth meridian chart, and it'll show you every organ that every one of your teeth is connected to. And so you can look at your tooth, whichever one you got rotten back there, and figure out what meridian it's on, and see if you're having issues with that organ in your body, and it could be directly coming from that tooth.
I've never heard about this. I'm incredibly excited to find out now, because the tooth that's messed up is my very back wisdom tooth on the top right, and I probably got about 40% of it left.
Okay.
It's a big old hole back there, and
Yeah. I can just, I'm not a doctor, obviously, but I can just say that from my experiences, man, like getting that thing pulled out is probably going to be the best thing you could ever do for yourself, because I had this tooth in here it was bothering me for like 10 plus years. And I got this thing pulled out, and I started seeing some real rapid recovery and just everything. And I got it pulled just last November, and it's been literally rotting out in my mouth since 2002. And then, so anyways, it was a video I watched on the Price Pottinger Foundation, and it was about root canals and their implication in disease and all that. My situation is a little different from yours because mine was a root canal, and it can create autoimmune symptoms by trapping bacteria up there. But similar stuff can happen when you have like a rotting tooth. What it does is it traps anaerobic bacteria up inside your dental cavities up here. And then those dental cavities are connected to your meridians, and they all drain down through your body into your organs. So whatever like meridian that infection is on in your tooth up there, it's going to drain through your dental cavities, down through your lymph tissues, and it's going to end up somewhere in your organs depending on whatever meridian it's on. It's really interesting stuff, man. Check it out. Check out Google like teeth meridian chart, and then get on the Price Pottinger Foundation. Look up their dental stuff. It'll make you want to get it pulled out pretty quick.
right on.
Yeah, man.
I wasn't sure what I wanted to do because I don't trust my dentist.
No,
I
know.
They don't know anything. I'm talking to my dentist. I went to the dentist the first time in my adult life, and I'm like, well, maybe I could eat more healthy foods. And he's like telling me, no, all foods are going to rot your teeth out. And I'm like, really? I'm not buying it.
Nah, they don't. They don't like. They're pretty tight-lipped about stuff. They
can get sued. They could lose their license.
Yeah, totally, and lose customers. I just finished up all my dental work from my jaw injury, so I've probably spent more time in the dental chair than anybody, man. I had like $12,000 in work done, so I've had like almost every procedure done on my mouth. And I would sit there and talk to my dentist while I was getting the work done about Weston Price and about raw meat. And as I'm going through my raw meat stuff, I'm telling my dentist about it and stuff. And man, he just had nothing to say to me about it, man. And this guy's been doing dentistry his whole life. Everybody in his family is dentists. He's got like a family dentistry clinic. And the guy literally had nothing to say to me about Weston Price, about raw meat, about how it all healed my gums, it healed my teeth, about how I don't use toothpaste anymore. It was really weird. But I understand that there's a conflict of interest there. If the guy starts giving out medical advice that goes outside of what he was taught, he could be held liable for stuff. And it's like such a mess, man. And I just, after learning about all this stuff, I think that the medical and the dental industry is 100% reliant upon basically shitty diets. So if everybody corrected their diets, if everybody ate raw meat, modern, dentistry and most health doctors wouldn't be needed. you would just need possibly like some surgeons for maybe some accidents and stuff like that. But for the most part, you wouldn't even need hospitals and doctors. And I think deep down, dentists know that. I think they have to know that because that's what causes tooth decay is like your poor diet. So if you just eliminate that factor, then they're not needed anymore. So yeah, I mean, I don't blame them for telling people just to like whatever, just eat raw meat and never come back, because they won't have a job. But man, it's a crazy mess. But
my tooth, I got a conflict with my tooth because I think it'd be a good idea to pull it out, but on the other hand, since I started being more healthy, I've got zero tooth pain. The rot has not progressed at all. It's pretty much stayed at the point wherever it stopped once I started eating healthy. And it's kind of like my little canary in the coal mine. When I start eating messed up stuff, it will let you know. When I eat cooked food, food gets stuck in that tooth. Raw food never stuck in the tooth. When I eat sugar and carbohydrates, it's gonna start hurting and tell me that I'm eating some messed up stuff I don't need to be eating.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. I could be completely wrong here, but it could be somehow linked with your arthritis a little bit. I don't want to go out on a limb and start diagnosing you, but I will say that I've had that exact same issue with my teeth, where it was like chipped in half, food was getting stuck in it, like very similar infection to what you had going on. And I had that same stuff going on, man, with like my fingers, pain in my hands, tingling in my hands, that kind of arthritis stuff. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's like circulation issues or whatever, but just get it checked out, man, and just, maybe just look into getting it extracted. It's usually pretty cheap. And just go in there and say, hey, just pull it out, get this thing out of my skull, usually out of there pretty quick. And you can skip all of their crap and skip the root canals and everything they try to sell you, because all that's BS. But that's very interesting that you brought that up, man, because that's one of my points that I'm going to try to bring up in some interviews that I do with people is the dental stuff. I think that's so important, man. But so, I mean, I guess I got through most of my main questions, man, and I don't want to make this too long and drag it out. You got any questions for me or anything before we get out of here?
Checking my notes real quick. Oh, you're gonna ask about antibiotics?
Right. Yeah. Have you had many rounds?
Just the regular stuff when you get sick, maybe take some antibiotics or whatever. That was in the past, but I've always been good about taking all my regiments of antibiotics when the doctor prescribed them, because I didn't know any better. But at this point in my life, I would probably avoid antibiotics at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
They can help. Gottis had that terrible infection after he ate some bone marrow. He got an incredible, bacterial infection.
Yep.
He was about to die. He actually went to the satanic torture prison that he called hospitals. Doctors administered antibiotics and knocked that infection out. Probably saved his life.
Could have, yeah, definitely.
So I think there's a time and a place for everything, but there's a lot of people that suffer from antibiotics greatly, and antibiotics have totally destroyed their lives. So
yeah,
it's the good with the bad.
Yeah, arguably Gottis did a lot of that to himself by going vegan, right? And kind of running his body down and then introducing that bacteria in there. It's like, man, recipe for disaster. Yeah, that's interesting. I was just curious. I like to get kind of a background on just like, there's not a lot of raw meat eaters like us, man. So it's kind of interesting to see how we all converge on this path together. What brought us here? What kind of medical issues brought us together? But it's been really interesting talking with you, man. And I'd like to do this again sometime, maybe in the future. Maybe get together and check back in.
Appreciate it.
Take it easy, man.
Look forward to your videos, man. And I love your parasite videos. Those are incredible.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that I really look forward to.
Yeah, yeah, I'll keep them coming, man. As long as the studies keep coming out, I'll keep them up there.
All right.
Take it easy,
Take care
man.
now.
Bye bye.
Bye.